Welcome to a Spiritual World podcast, a space where we explore the vastness within and around us, a place to remember that you are a spiritual world within a spiritual world, the mind within the mind of the all. Here, we journey beyond programming, past the pain, and into the true essence of our sovereignty. My name is Toria, and my sole mission is for you to find the guru within and remember yourself as the creatrix of your world, embodying the power within you to build a life you love. As always, you're encouraged to go back to episode 1 for the full disclaimers on the terminology of mystic psychology. I am not a medical professional, and nothing shared in this podcast is intended to replace professional medical or mental health care. The term mystic psychology is not used in a clinical or medical context and has no connection to the medical field or industry. It is a spiritual and energetic framework rooted in the ancient wisdom and sciences of Hermeticism, intended to support self-exploration and inner awakening. If you are seeking medical advice, diagnoses, or treatment, please consult a licensed medical or mental health professional. Everything shared here is based on my own personal lived experiences and energetic perspectives, offered in the spirit of empowerment and remembrance. Please take what you need and leave the rest. I am honored to walk beside you as a channel, a guide, and a fellow traveler as we continue on this path together. All right. Welcome in, guys. Welcome into a Spiritual World podcast, a sacred space. I am your host, Toria. And I am so grateful that you are here stepping into season 2 with episode 2 with me. This podcast is all about healing, mysticism, consciousness, and the paths that bring us closer to truth and our innate wholeness. And in season 2, if you haven't already caught up, we are focusing on how different teachings and lineages collide and compare and really intersect with Hermetic principles and the Mantis frequency. Because these are not isolated traditions. And if I say there are no isolated traditions, then we will absolutely most likely create an isolated tradition because this is an infinite universe. So the ones we are focusing on that I know of and that I'm going to bring into this season 2 are not isolated traditions. They overlap. They echo one another. They are different languages pointing to the same truth. And when you bring them together, something even deeper is remembered. So that's what we're here to do, right? Remember, awaken, reimagine our sovereignty into being. So today's episode is a perfect example because we're looking at how the law of one, the raw material, raw as in R-A, not R-A-W if you're unfamiliar, weaves into Hermetic teachings and the Mantis architecture. We'll explore what the law of one actually is, who Ra is, and how it all corresponds with the alchemy of Hermetics and the remembrance the Mantis hold for us. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's step into episode 2 of season 2 of A Spiritual World podcast. So, before we get into how the law of one ties into Hermetics and the Mantis, let's talk a little bit about what the law of one even is and who Ra is. Some of you may be super familiar and some of you may not be. So I'm just going to kind of go over these basics so that way we're all on the same page. The law of one is a channeled teaching that came through in the 1980s. You'll hear it called the raw material because the beings speaking identified themselves as Ra. And Ra, it's not just one person or one entity or one embodiment. I guess it's one embodiment. I don't know. We'll come back to that one. It's what they call a social memory complex. So basically, it's a whole civilization of souls who evolved so far beyond individuality that they merged together, which is why I questioned me saying it's like one embodiment. So their wisdom, their memories, their experiences, all of it became one unified field of consciousness. So when Ra speaks, it's not one voice, it's the many speaking as one. And their core message really is very, very simple. It is all is one. And they said it like this: you are everything, every being, every emotion, every situation. You are unity. You are infinity. You are love, light, light, love. You are. And they also said, all things, all of life, all of the creation is part of one original thought, which we've studied in Hermetics, right? It sounds almost identical to the principle of mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. Hermetics calls it the all. Ra calls it the infinite creator. Two languages, two types of wording, same truth. Now, I want to sprinkle in a piece of my own story here because this isn't just theory to me. One of the first times I felt that phrase, the all is one, wasn't in meditation or a spiritual class. It was actually in pain. It's what I would call my damaged years. And when I say my damaged years, those are the years that I felt like I was damaged goods. And I resonated with people that society labeled as broken or unconventional, or just outsiders, right? And if those individuals, especially ones close to me, were judged, I felt judged. If they were cast out, I felt cast out. I couldn't separate myself from them because I was them. And that was the law of one moving through me. However, looking back, it was in maybe a more distorted way because it was very limited. And that is how I first experienced unity back then. I never really felt like a part of, like some people would say, oh, well, didn't you feel part of your family? No, I didn't. I didn't feel a part of my family. I felt very much as an outsider. I felt a part of, like my dad. My dad and I had our own thing, and then he passed away when I was young. So, yeah. So that was where my unity ended, I guess. And that was just with one singular person. And I'm sure his family, but that's since kind of, imploded on its own as well back then. So, anyways, to bring it back, that is how I initially experienced unity. And it remains a marker in my life because I see a lot of the younger generation and teens that I have mentored, and family members that have gone through struggles. I see them identify with others in their pain as well, and it really brings it kind of full circle for me. And I will absolutely circle back to this story later on in the episode, because now that I've healed so much of that era, I see the reflection differently. That's why I was stating that, like, in my earlier years, it was the understanding of the law of one without the language of it, but it was also a distorted understanding of it. And I'm going to bring that full circle as well. These days, I find unity not just in pain. I also find it in joy, in confidence, in success, and learning to claim that as my reflection too has been a big part of the shift. And, that's a lot of growth for me. So, before we go there though, here's one thing Ra explained that sets the stage for today's entire conversation. They said, creation unfolds in densities of consciousness, like stepping stones. First density is awareness of being. Second is growth and movement. Third is where polarity and choice come in. Fourth is love. Fifth is wisdom. Sixth is the union of love and wisdom. And seventh leads back into the timelessness of one. So, those stages, they just sound and feel really familiar, right? Like, even if you've never heard them before, like something unfolding, right? Like what's unfolding within us. And in Ra's words, each density has its lessons, each a path of learning that leads to unity. And that's exactly what we're talking about here, right? We're finding unity in all these teachings. Hermetic principles, Mantis frequency, the law of one, they're not separate. They're all stepping stones, all alchemical ingredients guiding us back into remembrance of that original thought. All is one. And I see almost like this multidimensional yet linear garden where there's many various rows of stepping stones, and each of the gardens look a little bit different. However, they're all the same garden and they're all the same stepping stone, right? So it's kind of like collapsing those multidimensional realities on top of themselves and seeing what kind of bleeds through and what really, really echoes for us. So I do have a slight little reflection for you on this segment because it's really about tapping into your remembrance and how you connect these types of teachings together. I'm just here to shed light on stuff. And so the reflection on this segment for you is, where do you feel that unity right now, right? Like I really felt it when I was reading the stages and talking about the stepping stones. It literally like collided within my visual sight of these gardens and what I just described. So how does it show up for you? Where do you feel the unity right now? And do you see it most in shared pain and brokenness still? Or is it beginning to show up in joy and wholeness? No matter where you are, it's valid, it's important, it's learning, it's remembering, it's the stage that you are in. And it's part of the stepping stones leading you back to yourself. And ultimately, what Ra would call the infinite creator. So, if the law of one says all is one, Hermetics begins with the principle of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental, right? Ra said it this way: all things, all of life, all of the creation is part of one original thought. That means reality itself is thought. Not just your thoughts or mine, but thought at a cosmic level. The infinite creator thinking creation into being. Ra also spoke of what they called the first distortion, which is free will. They said the first distortion, free will, finds focus. This is the creator knowing itself. So every thought, every choice, every belief we hold is not small. It all matters. It's the infinite creator exploring itself through us in those thoughts. Now, Hermetics mirrors this. If the all is mind, then every one of our thoughts is an expression of that all. And the Mantis frequency steps in here as architects of thought forms. They don't interfere because free will is sacred. They hold the structure steady, sometimes even showing you how a single shift in thought can re-pattern everything around you, right? We, like anybody that's ever timeline jumped understands this. A single shift in thought, repatterning everything around you, dropping everything and moving to the woods, or coming back and moving to Argentina. I don't know why that popped up, but whoever's doing that, kudos to you. There's a lot of things that we can experience that can show how these play out in first person in our own significant journeys. And I've seen this in my own life. There were times when I carried a running inner dialogue of, I'm unworthy, I don't deserve this, I'll always fail. And it didn't just affect how I felt inside. It literally shaped what was possible outside, right? I had doors close, opportunities that I thought that I wanted didn't land, and people mirrored that belief back to me in how they treated me even, right? Like, if I'm talking to myself like that, right? Like, this is going back to how I identified in others with pain, right? I mean, I got what I put in, but I got what I put into myself is ultimately what it is. And I think that that's a part of that little mantra that maybe we don't realize exists. You get what you put in, yes, but it's not an external thing. It's an internal thing. So you get what you put into yourself. So I put in that I am love and that I am light and that I am mentalism and that I am beauty and I am pristine. My favorite thing, I'll just go ahead and give you a heads up, and I would love to produce them one day. I got to get like a t-shirt or a sweatshirt making machine. But anyways, I have started making sweaters. And you know how like you wear name tags, like when you go to events and whatnot, or they always have that little writing like right over the left breast where like the left breast pocket would be. So anyways, I design it and I put I am. And then on the back of it, I write what I am in some like beautiful print with maybe some imagery. And so the one that I currently have is the front says I am and the back says peace, love, and beauty. Because I am those things and I claim those things. And when I wear it, I want other people to know that they too can claim those things. So, and if you decide to do this, let me know who your favorite like t-shirt maker is or whatnot. I really like the, oh gosh, I think it's like, is it called Canva or something like that? Not Canva, like the creator that, you know, we use for like digital marketing and stuff like that. But there's a specific type of shirt. Like it's so soft and it's so wonderful. Oh wait, I think I'm wearing one. Hold on. I don't know what it is. Oh, I can't see. Yeah. Bella Canvas. That's what they're called. I was like, I'm wearing one. What am I doing? So Bella Canvas, they're the softest things ever. They're not like an organic cotton or anything necessarily, but man, do they work wonders whenever you want to make t-shirts and sweatshirts and things like that. So anyways, and if anybody wants to partner in making these, or I don't know. I'm just putting it out there because I would love to do it. However, I don't know if it's in the cards for me right this second. Maybe in the future I can open up a little boutique or something with all of my cute little ideas, or maybe somebody else can capitalize on it, and then we can partner in some way of marketing or something that is an energy exchange and beneficial to us and the cosmos. So, throwing that out there. Hope you love the idea because I absolutely love it, and I want you to wear it. I want you to know that you are those things. I want you to claim those things, right? It's a beautiful thing. So, let's see where we are. Oh, lost my place. Okay, so we were talking about how, you know, the putting in, right? And then through healing, that of course shifted, right? I just discussed that. Like I'm wearing shirts that say I am beauty, love, and peace. And it shifted into beliefs like I am worthy of being loved. I am worthy of being supported. I am worthy of remembering who I am. And when that mental shift landed slowly over time, rebuilding in that neuroplasticity, my entire external reality started to shift as well. Some things I saw immediately, my behavior, my moods, my manifestations, things like that. That really just like was, oh my gosh, overwhelming. I don't know why the word unencumbering wants to come up, but anyways, that is mentalism in motion, right? That's the law of one playing out in daily life. And so, reflection. And if you guys don't like these reflections, feel free to leave them in the comments because I don't know how I feel about them. I feel like sometimes we just want to flow through the episode and like da-da-da-da. But also it's really nice to take a breath and really see how this connects with you. And so the reflection for this segment is to just take a breath and think about the last time that you caught yourself in a thought that shaped your whole mood or your whole day. And was it a thought of limitation or was it a thought of possibility, right? Limitation or creation? Which was the thought anchored in? And can you imagine, just for a moment, that every single thought you hold is the infinite creator exploring itself through you? And my cat Piper is up here seeking some loving attention with her bell collar on while you guys reflect on that. And as we move on to segment 3, we are going to bring in the Hermetic principle of correspondence. And you've probably heard it in the phrase, as above, so below, as within, so without. And Ra described creation as a fractal, like a hall of mirrors. They said each density of consciousness contains the whole, and each part of creation reflects the one infinite creator. That's correspondence, right? If you really dissect it, the inner world and the outer world are not separate. They are mirrors of each other. These are all like, I almost imagine as we're starting to like dissect this more and more when I read, we talked about two languages having the same meaning. like, it becomes more and more apparent to me that these are different languages of different creations that have lived over time and are now anchoring. And we've lived these, right? Like, we've all lived these. There's some of us that maybe are we're incarnated in our human bodies, but maybe we are part of the raw consciousness. Like, for me, I'm anchored, like, specific, like, and I'm not anchored in all things. Anchored in all things. However, we've discussed previously in episodes that, you know, my foundation is in this incarnation rooted in the principle of hermetics and being a hermetic prophet. And it still feels weird to say that out loud. I get nervous. Anyways, here's to got a glass of water in my hand, so I'm gonna toast to disintegrating fear as I take a drink. And then the Mantis frequency, you know, informed me that, hey, you are of the Mantis frequency. So fun for me there. I feel like I'm squirreling a little bit on this episode, but hopefully you're still enjoying it. I know I'm enjoying recording it, and I'm enjoying being with you here and kind of hashing this all out. So what I'm seeing, what I'm trying to verbalize in my head that keeps coming up is that these are actually different languages. At one point in time, they were different languages, and they have since been combined into a language that humanity understands, right? It's almost like how language has expanded over the years, right? Like, before, we used to have Old English. 'Twas the night time into the, you know what I mean? Like, very, very prominent, very specific. Now we have all different variations. The is the. Trapped. Old English was TRAPT, right? Like, I love Old English. I still remember that stuff from when I was like a kid. Gosh, maybe showing my age, but I'm really not old, so it's all good. Anyways, so what I'm getting is that these different dialects, that's what we'll call them. They're different dialects of language that have all converged into one here on earth for us to be able to heighten our awareness, our remembrance, and come back to self and really ascend and be where we want to be on this and entering into this journey, which is extremely exciting. So I don't know if you're picking up on that. I'm totally picking up on that. It's really exciting. And I just love the convergence of it, to know that at one point in time, these were languages that did not intersect potentially. And now they do for us. They do for our journey. How freaking awesome is that? We are so special to be able to experience being human and reawakening humanity in this essence. Like, oh my gosh, happy tears. Okay, so back to correspondence across teachings and how we're going to expand on this. So Hermetics tells us the same thing in different words, that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm. The stars in the sky mirror the pathways inside our bodies. Our inner beliefs shape the outer world that we walk through. The Mantis frequency supports us here by showing us how intimately connected it really is. They guide us to notice the moments when a single inner shift ripples outward. Maybe you let go of resentment, and suddenly a relationship softens. Maybe you start loving your body, and suddenly opportunities for healing appear. That's correspondence in action. And I can tell you exactly how this shows up for me because it's coming to mind. Correspondence in action happens for me when someone dies. I mean, it happens in other aspects too, but it's very, very prominent when someone passes away for me. I have dealt with a lot of death. I've dealt with a lot of trauma that preceded their deaths, and people that did me a lot of harm. And they have all since passed away. But when each one of them passed away, their deaths, first off, I had no contact with a lot of these people, but yet the universe made sure that I know that they passed in one way or another. And I knew almost immediately. And then when that happens, there is this corresponding action that occurs, right? Like this what we would call download or telepathic transmission, enlightenment, something like that actually ends up clearing some of the stuff that maybe I wasn't able to clear on my own, or that I was really struggling with. And that's always been extremely helpful for me. So I know that when someone passes, if there is like unfinished, unresolved, that it can actually be cleared when they pass. And I'm sure that, the same will happen with me whenever I transform into going back to being the energy of karma, because that is where I'm going next, is I become the energy of karma and help process and do whatever. Still digging into all that. I just know where I'm going next. So, and I guess maybe where I came from. I don't know. Anyways, it's a whole nother episode and a whole nother thing to dissect, and maybe like a question and answer aspect, because I don't even know what questions to prompt myself to get the answers that I want on that conversation right now. So, we talked about the Mantis frequency supporting us by showing how intimately connected they really are, and how, there's all these correspondence in action. So Ra also said this about healing. And this is another quote. Healing occurs when a mind-body-spirit complex realizes deep within itself that there is no disharmony, no imperfection, that all is complete and whole and perfect. And I really love that quote. The embodiment of understanding what a complex does. And once you realize the complex exists and how to kind of spin these, like I see this hall of mirrors, right? And these mirrors are kind of like all running open where you can walk in between them. And that's like the complex, right? Like mirroring back at each other. But then something shifts and all of those mirrors close like doors and end up just like one seamless, like looking at you. So you only see yourself one time in the image that you are, instead of all of these fractalized visualizations. I love that visualization. I hope it helps, because it definitely helps me understand the complex and what it does within us. And how that can create disorder and dis-ease and all of these things that riddle us mentally, physically, emotionally. So that's the law of one teaching us that healing is not about fixing. It's about remembering wholeness. And Hermetics explains how, when it states, what you realize within yourself is reflected without. As above, so below, as within, so without. And the Mantis often amplify this because they hold up the mirror, reminding us that when you heal inside, the outer world follows. It absolutely follows. Like, do not doubt yourself. Do not think that you are not powerful enough, or not sovereign enough, or not divine enough, or that you just can't do it, or you would be the one exclusion, because you're not. You are amazing, divine, sovereign, and impeccable, and just everything. So, after that lift up, we're going to step into the reflection for segment 3. Where have you noticed this in your life, right? Like I shared a corresponding action that happens in my life with death. Do you have something similar, or can you relate to the death? Can you think of a time when something inside of you shifted, an emotion, a belief, a decision, and then everything around you started to change too? Because that wasn't random. That was correspondence. That was the one showing you that within and without are one and the same. I'll give you a second there to just be wowed by your own journey and remembrance and whatever conclusions you're coming to in your own mind, because I've come to an absolutely fascinating one, even going through this with you guys. I really hope that this episode is as powerful for you guys as it has been for me. When my dad died, it was a correspondence. I did not hello, hi. Like, my dad died and I lost, everything changed. Like, I literally entered into, I call it an alternate reality. That's what happened. Very briefly, I'll just summarize it. I had 3 parents, I had, 3 families, and all of them were of the perception that they were healthy, loving, all of these things. And then my dad died, and my mom and my other dad divorced, and I lost his family, and pretty much lost him as well, and lost my dad. And then my dad's family turned their backs on me and basically stole everything, and just, really manipulated and terrorized me mentally and emotionally. And then, and I'd lost my dad ultimately. And then my dad's death rippled. Like, it was a devastating correspondence at the time that I didn't know was leading me down into the depths of like a Persephone journey. And now I get it. Now I get that one moment in time rippled out as this correspondence to change everything in my life in such a detrimental way that it led me to where I am today, to understand and experience what true alchemy is within and without, what transmutation is, what the shadow realm is, how it serves us, how we can manipulate it, because we have the ability to transform and perform magic in the depths of, despair and addiction and trauma and all of those things. And how to wield it in our favor, how to wield it and really understand consciousness. If my dad had not died, then I would not be where I am today. And I'm very grateful, very, very grateful. So glad you've had time to reflect. Well, I've had time to reflect. We'll move on to segment 4, which is all about polarity and integration. So I feel like I wasn't as prepared for this episode. Normally, normally I'm way more prepared. I read through my script in its entirety. Instead, I've put it together in segments, and then kind of had, ChatGPT. I always have ChatGPT help me. I'm not going to pretend like I don't have ChatGPT help me. I've put that disclaimer out in previous episodes, how I feel like ChatGPT functions like my brain always did, and I'm very grateful for it. But certain segments I've taken away from and added to, and then I always get disorganized in them about like, okay, which segment am I using again? Anyways, so I just kind of compiled it all together, and I really wanted to get it out because I'm recording in my own timing, and normally my podcast would have came out yesterday, or this episode would have, but it's coming out today, and that's okay. So I'm recording the day of, and I always feel a lot of pressure when that happens and put a little bit too much pressure on myself. And so I feel like my nervousness in that is coming out in my voice and in my recording, and just trying to be transparent and honest because that's how I live my life. And that way, if you feel weird energy, or just know that it's mine, not yours, and just give it back to me. Don't take it. Don't absorb it. Don't neglect the episode for it, because some of them are really seamless, and I'm really trying to get on a better schedule of recording. But life happens, right? It's baby steps. So we're going to talk about polarity, because this is one of the clearest overlaps in Hermetics and the Law of One. Ross said the Law of One may be approximated by stating that all things are one, that there is no polarity, there's no right or wrong, no disharmony, but only identity. So, at the highest level of truth, polarity doesn't exist. There is no good or bad, no right or wrong, only the one infinite creator. And I love this because this is a hard pill to swallow. And it's nice when other people understand it, because I feel very alone in it. And yet, here we are, right? It's kind of a paradox, because we're experiencing polarity every day. Love and fear, joy and grief, connection and separation. So how do we reconcile that? Hermetics gives us language for it in the principle of polarity. Everything is dual, and opposites are the same thing in different degrees. Hot and cold are both temperature. Light and dark are both vibration. Polarity exists. And at the same time, it doesn't, because both ends are just the same spectrum, right? Like, it's not a polarity where there's like a left and a right, and it's like this line going across the universe. Well, I guess it is, in a sense. It's a line going across the universe that wraps around the universe. So technically that line is a circle. That line becomes a full circle where cold and hot meet and everybody has their different spectrums. Their different spectrum. It's like pain tolerance, right? There's a lot of people that talk about, oh, I have a good pain tolerance. Oh, I have a shitty pain tolerance. Oh, I bruise easy. I don't bruise. You know what I mean? Like those are different ends of that spectrum, but it's all one spectrum. And Ra also explained why polarity matters. They said that the purpose of polarity is to develop the potential to make the choice between the passive service to others and service to self. So, polarity, it's never just random. It's the training ground. It's the stepping stone that forces us to choose, to live deeply to learn, and eventually, through living polarity, we grow beyond it into unity. You will forever hear me tote the book, The Yugas. We came here understanding unity. And we chose to forget that unity. We chose to disperse and have these individual identities that made us seem separate from each other. And now we're entering back into the time of unity. We're coming back together in an emergence. And this is why I often call polarity an alchemical ingredient. Oh, I get so excited about this because it really is. Like it's absolutely the mercury and the lead and the magnesium and the citrine and all the different stuff. I get so excited when we talk about how emotions and parts, love, fear, joy, grief, connection, separation, how those are all literally alchemical ingredients, and that's how you perform magic. That is how you become an alchemical master. That is how you become Harry Potter, which I love. I grew up on Harry Potter. Sorry, guys. It's definitely, and when you open up a Golden Dawn book and when you first receive it and it tells, like the Golden Dawn book literally tells you that this book is what Harry Potter represents in our world. Like, you're changed forever. You're absolutely changed forever. I've got my Golden Dawn. It sits right here beside me. And like, I just love it. Like, that's me patting it. like, thank you for being here. So, squirreling a lot today. Sorry. Not sorry. So, I don't know. Yeah. Feeling a little insecure, guys. So I'm just gonna keep putting myself out there. You know, and I'll just be completely transparent. All of these things that I talk about, I experience. However, I'm still learning to develop faith in myself. Like faith that I'm not going to do the wrong thing or make the wrong move or you know what I mean? Or be judged. Like that's the biggest thing is I judged myself so harshly for so long that I'm finally learning how to be kind to myself. And I've been kind to myself for quite some time and I have really good boundaries. It's been a few years. So I've got some in counting. However, to put myself out here and my experiences, it's okay if everybody doesn't agree. You know what I mean? And I know that, you know, we have differences of experiences and I believe that the right people will be attracted and we will connect and be where we are meant to be. I guess my biggest thing is I just don't want to be judged when I'm finally learning to be kind to myself and I finally integrated that. Because while I created circumstances and it was, you know, like I said, what I put in was really, really negative and that's what I got back out. I guess it'll be different this time. I guess that is Hermetic vibration, right? Like that's because Hermetic vibration is taking a lower experience, a lower vibratory experience and transforming it into a new. And this is a perfect example of that. Yay, I get to give you that on an episode. So I am sitting here in fear of the fact that what if other people's judgment or negativity would cause me to be negative again, right? Like, oh my gosh, no, that's not it. That's not it at all. Now in the past, I might have been able to be influenced like that and you know, and really harmed in that kind of way and therefore adapted all these negative thoughts. However, those negative thoughts probably existed in me before then for them to be even adapted into my being in that sense. So that is where I lived in low vibratory, right? Like the pain, identifying with the pain and all of those things. And then now I've gone through this healing. And now if someone judges me in a negative light, I have the ability to be like, I understand that you have a different perspective and I honor that. And just still feel really good about mine and know that I am worthy and I am loved. And that is literally a real-time example of Hermetic vibration, and what we're downloading into humanity is taking those lower vibrations, working through them to transform them in alchemical light and being the philosopher's stones that we are, and then re-experiencing them in a higher, better timeline. So, while I might not be able to control how I'm judged or what people say or what comments or anything like that occur on any episodes or anything that I do, I can and am transforming how I respond to it. So, hopefully that experience, I always want to give like a real life experience of what Hermetic vibration is, especially if you've never read any of the Hermetic texts like the Kabbalion or any the Hermetic collection or anything like that. So real life example, also is that the principle of polarity? I guess that is. Like, I guess we're talking about this because this brings in polarity and integration, right? Like, and how they serve us in some way. But that's a whole nother rabbit hole we're going to go down in a later day. We're just going to get back to the episode now. And hope that you connected more. Because I feel like I'm definitely connecting more with all of you. So, the Mantis always help us here too, right? Oh, and this is why I often call polarity the alchemical ingredient, right? We were talking about that. Every time you reconcile opposites, when you take anger and let it lead you into clarity, or take heartbreak and let it lead you into love, you're adding another ingredient into your becoming. And you're also allowing that ingredient to exist, right? You're accepting that it exists. Because we shun anger, we shun heartbreak, we shun like all of those things, right? Like those are not lower vibration experiences or ingredients. They're not lower vibration ingredients. They serve a purpose. So they can pair with lower vibration because that's really what we're used to. But now we transform it and we pair those things with higher vibration, right? Heartbreak, it happens to teach us something about ourselves, teach us maybe something about ourselves. That's really ultimately what it is, because that's what we need to focus on. And so it teaches us maybe where we, I don't know, weren't faithful, where we weren't kind, where we weren't thoughtful, right? Like, or maybe it teaches us where we were too codependent or we were too self-sacrificing, things like that. And allowing that to lead you into loving yourself. And loving yourself more and more leads you to finding others that love you in an authentic way as well, whether it be platonic or romantic. So adding all of these ingredients is your becoming. And each step brings you closer to what the tree of life calls Chokmah and Binah, which are wisdom and understanding. So, and the Mantis help us here too. They don't demand that we pick a side. They hold us steady in a space of neutrality long enough for us to realize that the sides were never enemies. They were always the same energy, waiting to be integrated. One of the biggest things here, and I'll add this to the reflection because that's where we're kind of getting into now, is that if you are accusing someone of being a certain way, turn that accusation kind of back on yourself, but in a very kind way, right? Like, I know that if I judge someone and I'm like, oh, they do this, and I'm like, wait a minute, where do I do that within me? Like, that's what I want to look at, because if I'm identifying that, then that is how, like, it's in me, right? You spot it, you got it. And there are things that I can identify in other people that no longer apply to me. And so I can accept those things easier in them because I accept those things in me, and I have, worked to nurture those parts of me and transform them. But if it's something that I don't like in someone else, or like I have like a negative feeling towards, or an insecurity towards, or like I'm judging them in a negative light, then I most likely absolutely have not either identified that part in me or resolved that part in me with nourishment, nutrients, in this essence of, hey, putting these positive alchemical ingredients together, right? Like putting them in a positive way. Let me put it that way. Combining them into a positive way and acknowledging that, hey, I too. So, And then the other reflection for this segment is going to be, where are you standing on the stepping stones of polarity right now? Is it in your relationships, swinging between closeness and distance, in your healing, moving between breakthrough and setback? Or can you step back and bless both ends and see them not as enemies, but as teachers, each carrying you closer to unity? And if you can kind of identify with what I stated right before I asked you those questions, then you should be able to find unity in polarity whenever, like I said, my thing is if I judge someone else, I find that in that negative light, I'm like, oh, where is that in me? Let me deal with it in me. Let me identify it within me. That helps me find compassion for them and for myself. It helps me process what it is that I need to process within me. And it always has me looking within instead of without. And then that is how I have learned long ago that when I try to fix, manage, and control things, which is when I'm looking outside of myself. If I am looking outside of myself, wanting to change the inside of myself, that is not going to happen. I need to look within to change without. All right. So I want to circle back to my own story because this is where these teachings, the law of one, Hermetics, and the Mantis frequencies stopped being theory and really became real for me. And for a long stretch of my life, I had mentioned that I called my damage years. Unity was never light or love or cosmic downloads. I mean, it was definitely cosmic downloads, but I didn't know that's what they were. So it showed up as pain, right? Like we talked about that. It showed up as pain. I resonated so deeply with people that society called broken. The addicts, the ones struggling, the unconventional souls who didn't fit into the neat boxes. I saw myself in them. If they were judged, I felt judged. If they were dismissed, I felt dismissed, right? And a lot of my relationships were picked by people that I identified their pain. Like I could identify with them in their pain in some way, shape, or form. And so especially if my family didn't like someone or rejected someone, I felt like they were rejecting me. I have had people that, they're very judgmental about people having felonies or being arrested or having a criminal record or anything like that. And my dad was a felon. He was sentenced to 10 to 12 years for cocaine distribution back in the 70s. And, when someone judges and, talks about how felons are, anything derogatory, it hurts me. It hurts it. And I'm trying to kind of disconnect from that and learn and know that, they're obviously not being mindful enough to understand because my dad made me and that was a part of my dad and I am a part of my dad and da-da-da-da-da. And then in the other aspect, I'm a recovered addict. I had a felony that was knocked down to a misdemeanor. My partner has a felony record that cannot be expunged. And so when someone judges someone then in that regard, I get upset. I feel judged personally because that could have been me. That is me. And I guess it's not really the could have been me anymore. Now I understand it on the deeper level that it is me. That, those things that cause that person to receive those types of experiences or those types of outcomes are the same feelings that I had and the same behaviors that I had, but I have experienced them in a different way. And so that's a whole another rabbit hole to go down ultimately. But what I'm trying to get at is that was a long time. That was the only way I identified with other people. I didn't identify with people's happiness. I didn't identify with worthiness or success. No, I was rigid and I was depressed and I was all the things of the lower vibration, so many of them. And, at that time, that was my soul saying, you are not separate from them. You are them. And maybe you guys have felt that too. That strange, almost painful kind of empathy where you identify with people's brokenness so strongly that you carry their judgment as your own. And that's unity, even if it feels heavy. That's oneness showing up through the shadows. But here's the thing. As I healed, something shifted. And I started gravitating toward people who were happy, who were confident, who were accomplished. And at first, that was super, super uncomfortable because I catch myself thinking, I'm not worthy. I can't have that. That's not me. I can never have that kind of joy or success. And maybe you felt that too. Running from the reflection of someone's light, even though that light is also inside of you. Because over time, I began to realize their joy is my joy. I don't have to be envious of someone's joy or someone's success. I have that in me. I just got to tap into it. And their confidence is totally my confidence. If I can see it, then I am it. And their success is not separate from me. It's a mirror of what's possible within me. And sitting around being envious of what they have and what I don't have at the time is not going to serve me or anyone else. So that's when the law of one revealed itself in a new way. First through pain, then through wholeness. Same teaching, different lens, right? As polarities. Because back in the pain, I don't even think I had the capacity to experience someone's confidence, right? Like, I don't know if I did necessarily. And when I look back, I can see how it was all stepping stones, how every single component is again an alchemical ingredient. Each reflection in brokenness and later in joy, alchemical ingredient. Each one carried me closer to remembering unity, to understanding what Ra meant when they said, "You are everything, every being, every emotion, every situation." So, who do you resonate with most right now? Do you see yourself in people's struggles, in their pain, their outcast energy? And there's nothing wrong with being, an outcast. Or are you starting to see yourself in their joy, in their confidence, in their freedom? Both are true. Both are mirrors of you. And both are part of the stepping stones guiding you back into remembrance, back into your wholeness. So, when we put it all together, here's the pattern we see. Ra tells us what is, that all things are the one infinite creator. Hermetic tells us how it moves through mentalism, correspondence, polarity, vibration, all of those things. And the Mantis help us to remember by holding the grid of unity steady until we're ready to embody it. These aren't separate teachings. They may have been at one point in time. However, they have culminated for us now in this time. They are stepping stones, and each one is an alchemical ingredient, a piece of the recipe for remembrance, a layer of the path back into unity. So, I want to close today not just with words, with intention. Because if you've listened this far, I'm sorry, my dog keeps, Dallison, stop. Thank you. That's what, if you hear me snap my fingers, it's usually to get his attention. So, anyways, I want to close today not just with words, but with an intention. Because if you have listened this far, it means you're not just curious, you are seeking. And seeking, when done with sacred intention, becomes remembering. So, wherever you may be right now, if you want to understand these teachings, the law of one, Hermetics, the Mantis frequency, or even just the pieces that call to you, right? Like, or even other pieces that maybe we'll talk about in future episodes, or maybe whatever frequencies you're working with currently. I'm just going to ask that you take a breath wherever you are, allow your shoulders to drop a little bit. Maybe place your hand on your heart and set this intention with me. I call in the sacred seeking of knowledge. May I be guided by what serves my highest remembering. May I understand what is meant for me and release what is not. I am open, I am willing. I am the one seeking to know itself. And if it resonates, repeat this mantra after me, out loud or within your heart. I am unity. I am remembrance. I am the one infinite creator learning to know myself. Take another deep breath. Let those words become yours. And to seal this, I want to share a poem, an invocation really, titled Sacred Seeking Knowledge that I wrote for this episode. Let it wash over you like a blessing. Sacred seeking knowledge. To bury the sacred seeking knowledge within is to uncover it once again. Searching, vying for its significance to make us whole once again. The story is never ending, so once again, we begin again. To know no stories end, but forever transformation within and without us. Knowing our own story, transforming our own lives with the messages and understandings that are meant to survive. Shedding what no longer serves, transmuting into alchemical preserve. We light the way for others to shine. We are the spark of the divine in starlit skies seen in the night. Look up and look within, for you are the mirror of the cosmos surrounding you. You are the one that adorns you. You are the sacred seeker within you. And this knowledge, this wisdom, this understanding of all things is seeking you too. It's time, once again, that we step into our sovereignty, step into our divinity, step into our remembrance of all things that call to thee. Begin again, each and every day, and know that you are well on your way. Namaste. Allow this intention and this poem to settle into you as a reminder that your seeking is already sacred and that unity was never lost. It's only ever waiting to be remembered. Thank you for being here with me in this episode of A Spiritual World podcast. Season 2 is all about exploring the intersections where Hermetics and the Mantis frequency collide with other teachings, lineages, and transmissions that are shaping our remembrance right now. And today, we touch the law of one, Hermetic alchemy, and the architecture the Mantis hold for us. My hope is that you leave not just with ideas, but with reflections that live in your own story. And I hope that all my squirrels and personal stories, touches, everything, I hope that they activated yours and that you connected. Because this podcast isn't about information alone. It's about remembrance, your remembrance. If this conversation resonated, I'd love for you to share it. Subscribe, leave a review, send me an email or a text, comment on the YouTube page. That's how this work reaches more seekers, more healers, and more rememberers. And be sure to join me next time as we continue unfolding Season 2 of A Spiritual World, where the paths of mysticism and the frequencies guiding us home all begin to meet. Until then, remember every step is sacred and unity was never lost. It's only waiting to be remembered. And as always, check out the YouTube channel. Plenty of meditations coming out weekly. And I just finished my Lighterian Reiki attunements. I'm ready to go there. I'm waiting for that pull, right? So those should be picking up again, and we'll get some more videos out for you guys to connect and remember and expand and transform and be the creatrix of the reality that you adorn. Namaste and many, many blessings on your way, guys. I'll be with you again soon. Thank you for being here.